The Ethiopian government has now confirmed its air force has launched airstrikes on the city of Mekelle in the Tigray region. It's at the center of a conflict between Tigray and the central government in Ethiopia. It's understood several people were killed, but this also shows how this conflict has intensified. Professor Mammo Munchie is a research professor in the Department of Science and Technology at the National Research Foundation at the Tshwane University of Technology. Professor Munchie, good afternoon to you, sir. This is incredibly serious. You have an air force attacking a city in its own country. It shows you how badly this conflict is escalating.
Yes. Thank you very much. Always focusing on different challenges that we face in Africa. We are the conflict-ridden continent. We have not come out of that conflict for a long time, nearly 60 years since we said we are politically independent from the colonial times. But now in Ethiopia, what's happening is very complicated. On one hand, we had the government, a new party called Prosperity Party, was elected, and they said democratically, and then there was inauguration of the Prime Minister on the October 4th. But we thought that once the new government is set up, hopefully a peaceful arrangement might be constructed. Instead, what we see is after the Prime Minister came, what he had is now more conflict going on. The conflict is happening in all parts of the country now. In the area called Benishangul, Welega, Mekelle, in the area called Afar, in the area, there's a place called Northern Gondar, and then Southern Tigray, in that area, Kumara, Mekelle, all these areas, we have big challenges and big problems. And the conflict is going on. And what it means is that this situation cannot continue. What we see is the actions being taken by everyone is not fair and not people-centered. It seems they are all driven by their own agendas and interests. The Tigray People's Liberation Front started this war. They should never have started this war. They should be in a situation where they say they should end it and it should go. Also, the entire external actors, United Nations, United States, Europe, all of them are also involved in different sides, the humanitarian side, this side, that side. What they should all be saying is the war must be stopped, controlled. There should be dialogue and agreement to stop it. So, otherwise, you see what's happening now, what you just said. Now, in Mekelle, the capital of Tigray, we hear now there's aircraft bombing happening. This shouldn't be happening.
Okay, so Professor, how do we stop it? Now, here's the complicated question. It doesn't seem to me, sitting in Johannesburg, very far away from Ethiopia and from Mekelle, that it doesn't seem to me that the Ethiopian people at this stage are able to stop it themselves. I'm not saying there should be an intervention force. What I'm saying is, would it help if international organizations, maybe the United Nations, maybe the African Union, maybe someone else, maybe someone from our country with our history, went to Ethiopia and asked to mediate? I mean, to try and get people sitting round a table. Is that possible? Would outside intervention, peaceful intervention, be accepted by the parties in this?
That is an extremely great idea you just mentioned. What we should expect from all the international forces and actors is not to say, to take the claim of one side against the other. Remember, if people are in conflict, their relationships and the way they also report is not always accurate because it's self-centered. So the best thing that the international organizations should do is not to join one against the other. They should be doing completely how can we make sure that this unnecessary war should be stopped, because the people that are dying are the innocent people, not these politicians who are doing the killing.
Professor, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It is an interview. I understand that. I mean, I completely agree with you. So what I'm trying to get to is, do you think the Ethiopian central government and the Tigray authorities, the Tigray Liberation Front, do you think they would actually accept outside mediation or not? Do you think they would?
I think they will probably accept it if, for example, the current situation, if you see the United States, they say they want to impose sanctions on some of the leaders. They also want to stop some of the aid they used to give to Ethiopia and things like that. Instead of acting like that from the big governments like the United States, the United Nations and others, instead of saying that, what they should be saying is, look, both of you, we want both of you to come to a dialogue. We need a dialogue. We want to encourage you to do the dialogue. If you don't do the dialogue, both of you, then I think after that they might then say we can take action. But if you simply say, one or the other, you get on the side of one or the other, then it's a complicated situation.
So, I mean,
then it's very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard for the government to accept if someone is supporting more the Tigray People's Liberation Front, and conversely, the other way. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Professor Munchie, I mean, this is always the problem, is who is seen as independent, who's the honest broker who's accepted, and I mean, you see exactly the same dynamic, perhaps even in the Middle East conflict. What is so astonishing, and we've just got a minute or so, Professor, but what is so astonishing is that when Abiy Ahmed became the Prime Minister, it was a surprise, it was seen as a major change. For some reason, they gave him a Nobel Peace Prize, and yet he's now in the middle of this conflict. He's seen, correctly or incorrectly, as running a government which is using an air force to bomb his own people. I realize that it's a lot more complicated than that. But what I'm saying is the situation in Ethiopia seems to have deteriorated from a position of hope for real change and a lot more freedom to this situation, really a civil war, so quickly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the situation in Ethiopia is really, really very tragic. It's very, very worrying, because what is happening now is that there's going to be war, more war, because the Tigray People's Liberation Front wants to continue, and also the government wants to end the war. They want to end it by defeating them. So one has to be defeated or the other. Who is going to be defeated in this kind of situation is very tough. So what would be very good is, because the TPLF imposed an apartheid type system for nearly 30 years, I think it's very, very important that whatever problems the government has in Ethiopia, that I think it would be good if the government of Ethiopia wins. And the international community supports them to make sure that the Tigray People's Liberation Front are under control. I think they should be under control. Professor, if they are not under control, it's a big challenge and a big problem for the country as a whole. That's my suggestion.
Professor Mammo Munchie, sir, thank you very much indeed, from the Department of Science and Technology at the National Research Foundation and the Tshwane University of Technology.